Because for the supreme Elohim, Yahweh, YHWH, Yahshua was knowledge. If you take advantage of it, you won't have to go to college. It's that indescribable feeling, that indescribable healing that brings me nothing but chilling. It's the way I get it. Now God has blessed me with a gift of articulate and eloquence. A boy who grew up shy, introverted, couldn't talk to people at all. Now that he speaks, he drops the destiny ball. My goal is to spread his message through all sorts of tools possible, through the camera, through the YouTube, to skirt his good, to stop the madness and bring our community back to gladness. And we can do that through the everlasting source. At the last resort, we're having to have to go to sue and go to court.
Shalom, shalom. Mishpokat of Yahweh.
Shabbat shalom.
We are in part 2. We're going to start out in Isaiah, the 29th chapter. Isaiah or Yeshayah. We're in part 2 of social distancing is not spiritual distancing. Isaiah 29. So social distancing is a reduction of human social interaction in an effort to prevent the spread of infectious disease. That's what social distancing is. Isaiah 29. And let's read verse 13, please.
Hallelujah.
Isaiah 29, verse 13. Wherefore Yahweh said, for as much as this people draw near me with their mouth and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men.
So this is spiritual distancing. Spiritual distancing is the human state of mind causing a space between them and Yahweh and what He commands to be done. So Isaiah 29:13 says, wherefore Yahweh amar, for as much as this am draw near me with their mouth, and how much they love Him.
Hallelujah.
But their mind has a space between them and Yahweh, and all you have to do is look at them because they're not doing what Yahweh said to do. He said, with their lips they kabod me, but have removed their pay, their mind, what they're doing, their daily life far from me. And their reverence toward me is taught by the precept of Adam or men, not by what He commands to be done, but by what men or they say should be done. Go to Psalms 119. Psalms 119. So, social distancing is not spiritual distancing.
Not. Big difference.
Psalms 119. We're going to start at verse 99.
Hallelujah.
Psalms 119. And we want verses 99 to 100.
Hallelujah.
Psalms 19, Psalms 119, verse 99. I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation.
Yes.
Verse 100. I understand more than the ancients, because I keep thy precepts.
Hallelujah.
All right, so here are people that are spiritually connected, and socially connected to Yahweh. So this man says, I have more being than all my Yahweh. For thy testimonies, what Yahweh said, what Yahweh commanded, are my meditation, what He was thinking on. I being more than the Atik, the ancients, because I shamar or keep thy precepts. So saying COVID-19, social distancing confirms that social and spiritual distancing are the same, shows a lack of understanding.
Right.
If they had somebody teaching them what Yahweh said, them standing up and saying that, whether they sitting down, whatever they saying, however they're saying it, it shows a lack of understanding in whoever's saying it. Let's go to 2 Corinthians, the 11th chapter. So saying those two are the same demonstrates a lack of understanding. They raise their hand and say, ooh, I don't know what Yahweh said. No, I have no clue.
Praise.
2 Corinthians 11. Let's read verse 3.
Hallelujah.
2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 3. But I fear, lest by any means, as the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, so your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Mashiach.
All right, so here's another brother, another man of Yahweh, saying, but I'm afraid, lest by any means, as the serpent beguiled or tricked Eve or Kawa through his subtlety, so your pay should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Mashiach.
Okay.
So it's devilish subtlety to think and say social distancing is spiritual distancing. It's devilish.
Yes, it is.
The word subtlety here in 2 Corinthians 11 and 3 is the Greek word found at Strong's Blue Letter Bible number 3834. Vine's Expository Dictionary of New Testament Words defines subtlety as all working, doing everything in unscrupulous conduct and craftiness.
Okay.
It is always used in a bad sense.
That's it.
In the New Testament as cunning craftiness. Thayer's Greek lexicon defines subtlety as specious or false wisdom, skill in undertaking and carrying on affairs with this false wisdom. Let's read this verse again, 2 Corinthians 11 and verse 3.
2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 3. But I fear, lest by any means, as the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, so your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Mashiach.
All right, it says, I am afraid lest by any means as the serpent be tricked Kawa through his subtlety, so your minds, your pay should be corrupted from the simplicity that's in Mashiach or Messiah or the Anointed One. So we saw in show number 1 that Mashiach's simplicity is virtue.
Yes, it is.
Free from pretending and being hypocritical.
I know, right?
So the devil is hypocritical. He pretends. He's complex. So he tries to make things be complex.
Yes, he does.
And he uses what's called division to try to take away Yahshua's simplicity. See, Yahweh wants us to get it. He wants us to understand what he wants. That's why he made it, as Yahshua was saying, plain and simple. But the devil uses division to try to take away the simplicity of Yahshua. He's got this thing called generations.
Okay.
Generation X. Generation Y. Generation Z. And other generations. So he takes away Yahweh's simplicity. Then he says, okay, you got this generation that was born in the Depression from 1912 to 1921. They called them one thing. World War II born 1922 to 1927. The devil calls them something else. Post-war born 1928 to 1945. He calls them something else. Boomers 1, or the baby boomers, born 1946 to 1954. He calls them something else. Boomers 2, or Generation Jones, born 1955 to 1965. Generation X, born 1966 to 1976. Generation Y, Echo Boomers or Millenniums, born 1977 to 1994. Generation Z, born 1995 to 2012. Now, Generation Z, they also said it's called iGen or Centennials. Refers to the generation, is all clouded up, isn't it? Refers, that's what he wants, divide. And he's hoping divide and conquer. Refers to the generation that was born between 1996 and 2010, following millennials. This generation has been raised on the internet and social media. That is, if they had it in their house. Everybody didn't have.
No.
With some of the oldest finishing college by 2020 and entering the workforce. Generation Z is the newest generation to be named and were born between 1995 and 2015. They're currently between 5 to 25 years old. There's nearly 74 million in the U.S.
Wow.
Now this guy named Collins, he made a dictionary in 2016. It's called Collins English Dictionary of 2016. He defined Generation Z as the snowflake generation. See how the devil now is coming against them. For these people that are letting the world define them or don't know any better. He called them the snowflake generation, meaning that the young adults of the 2010s were viewed as being less resilient and more prone to taking offense than the previous generation. You know the devil said that.
Yep.
All right, go to 1 Corinthians, the 1st chapter.
Praise.
But impressionable people will read this garbage, and then they'll be taking it to mean that that's how they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's a lie. 1 Corinthians, 1st chapter, and let's read verse 10, please.
Hallelujah.
1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 10. Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Master, Yahshua Mashiach, that we all speak the same thing.
Yeah.
And that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment.
Yes.
All right. Now, here's Yahweh talking to his people. Now I beseech you, and those that are socially and spiritually connected to him, they understand and they hear this.
Yes.
I beseech you all by Hashem of our Adon Yahshua Mashiach, that ye all admire the same thing.
Yes.
And that there be no divisions among you.
None.
So whoever is coming talking about, well, you are this generation and you are that not once in my life have I called myself a baby boomer. Why? Because Yahweh, even before I knew him, I didn't call myself a baby boomer. And definitely after I came to know him, I'm not calling my wife, because that's the world's definition of it. He said that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same page and in the same mishpat. So in this verse, the English word divisions is the Greek word found at Strong's Blue Letter Bible number 4978. Vine's Expository Dictionary of New Testament Words defines divisions as a cleft, a rip, metaphorically a dissension, a disagreement. It is translated schism. It means to cleave away from Yahweh and to become a sect. Just like the devil is behind the Zodiac sect. And I just happened to be on YouTube before we opened up the service so I could look at this sermon. And before I got to the sermon, I'm looking at this thing about the astronomers talking about zodiac couples that can come together and get married, and these are the best matches. And then I'm seeing Leo, Sagittarius, and all this garbage. Leo, Gemini. But now they're trying to matchmake and saying, okay, and so this is why the two of you all would work together. But the devil's behind this zodiac sect. This is another division. Then he wants you to say, oh, well, I'm this sign, I'm that sign.
Tell like this.
According to time.com, where do zodiac signs come from? Here's the true history behind your horoscope. This is by Olivia Waxman, June 21, 2018. Through astrology, looking for answers, signs, and predictions in the movement of the celestial bodies. What's that talking about? The stars, right? It isn't itself a science. There's a long history of humans looking up at the stars to plan their lives. Farmers used the skies as a calendar as long ago as ancient Egyptians, when the rising of Sirius, the dog star, around mid-July was seen as a marker of the imminent annual flooding of the Niles. Travelers used the skies as a compass, following the stars to know where to go. And many people use the skies as a source of mystical direction too.
Okay.
We might have done it before we came to Yahweh, but we don't now.
Right.
That's just one of the devil's divisions. For you to stand up and say, well, I'm this sign, what sign are you?
Yeah.
And we went through that ignorant phase. Some are modeling themselves after the world and call themselves Christian. I get this. It's the same difference as the zodiac, same difference as Generation X, Y, Z. It's the same principle.
Right.
There's this man from regent.edu, and the name of his article is The Mosaic Generation. Now he's trying to act like it's biblical.
I know, right?
The future of Christianity. Who are they and how will they change the future? This is by Wayne Oppel, O-P-P-E-L, and he is a doctor of strategic leadership from Regent University. And he's the president and owner of Oppel Consulting Group, which is a Christian leadership coaching, credit counseling, and training organization in North Carolina. All right, so now he goes to say, who are these mosaics? So he's supposed to know who the Mosaic generation is. Where did that come from?
I know, right?
Right? It's not in the Bible.
I know.
He says, although it's difficult to identify the precise beginning and end of the Mosaic generation, also known as the millennial generation, scholars generally agree. What scholars?
I know, world scholars.
They're not in the book.
World scholars.
Scholars generally agree that it began with those born in 1982 and has ended with those born around 2002. The Mosaic generation is currently the youngest generation and has distinct characteristics that differentiated from previous generations. They're highly educated and are well behaved and have a positive outlook on life. And he said, what are the Mosaics searching for? He said, family relationship, friendship, education. And he goes on to say, okay, what are their generational weaknesses? Now, where's he getting all this from?
Right, his own thoughts from the devil.
One of his biggest weaknesses is conformity. Cooperation is emphasized over independent thought or creativity. And while it is valuable in the development of social skills, it has led to the development of a generation that is more bland, less creative, and more dependent on peer support. So weak-minded people that are reading this, they're going to try to become this.
Yep.
Other negative characteristics of the Mosaic generation results from its overbooked, overactive lifestyles. Mosaics participate in more scheduled activities than any other generation. It's not surprising then that Mosaics are perpetually under stress, do not get enough sleep, have short attention spans, feel no strong commitment to any one activity or purpose, and have little experience with introspection. That's a bunch of garbage.
Praise the mighty God.
Go to 2 Corinthians, the 10th chapter. So the devil wants people to measure themselves by his standard. That is, looking at each other.
Right.
And thinking about how different they are. That's the same thing Willie Lynch did. So these people are doing the same thing, whether he calls himself this Christian is doing this,
I know, right?
or these other people. We're going to find out, where did this generation stuff come from? We're going to find out.
Praise the mighty God.
What's the origin of it? Why did it come up in the first place? We know the origin is a devil. But why did the world pick it up and do this? All right, but the devil wants us to be looking horizontally at each other, comparing and measuring and thinking about each other.
Yes.
He doesn't want us to look vertically. 2 Corinthians 10, 1 verse 12.
Hallelujah.
2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 12. For we dare not make ourselves of the number, or compare ourselves with some that commend themselves, but they measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves are not wise.
All right, so this is what all these writers are doing to all these generations. He said, we dare not go that way. Make ourselves of the number. So the majority are doing that, comparing themselves. And you got a whole class of people whose minds have been shot, dyeing their hair, trying to look like other people. Getting their noses cut. They got some show on TV now talking about botched, to where people went to get plastic surgery and came out looking like a monster. Why? Because they're comparing themselves and trying to look like, we all know what happened to Michael, poor Michael, cut his nose to where he didn't really have a nose. But this is the same thing.
Yes, it
they
is.
picked up on the devil's comparing. We dare not join these people, make ourselves of the number, or compare ourselves with some that commend themselves, but measuring themselves by themselves, looking at each other,
I know, right?
and comparing themselves among themselves. He said they're stupid, they're not wise, they're cockeyed, they're caught up in this fantasy that the devil has them running around in. Go to 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter this time. So the devil uses a lot of division.
That's how
He uses division a lot. We're going to 1 Corinthians 11. But now let's see where this generation stuff came from. And this article says, our generations, the best way to categorize consumer behavior. Look at that. The people that want to sell you something. These are the people that are selling computers, they're selling phones, they're selling all type of electronic equipment, they're selling clothes. This is where it came from. And so then what they're doing is standing up saying, okay, this generation, they buy these type of clothes and they bank at this bank, all is in here. They're looking at how people bank, or they're telling them, look, this is how they bank, this is how much money is in this. But our generation, the best way to categorize consumer behavior. So this has to do with trying to program you to buy what they want you to buy. He said, knowing generational trends is important so they can unveil similar attitudes and behaviors among consumers who experience world events at the same stage as their cohorts. And it doesn't hurt to understand these age groups, since marketing tools and audience segmentations generally include age as a factor. It said, children raised on the World Wide Web began processing information faster, enjoying gamification and multitasking, and viewing the world horizontally. In other words, comparing themselves among themselves. And I've got a chart here. It's viewing consumer behaviors based on generation alone. And they got them at the computer, they got them on the phone, and they got them with the laptops, and they got them doing different things. So they have classified some as avoiders. Avoiders have cell phones, but don't use mobile technology and apps. They have no social media accounts and no email. Just people trying to sell you stuff. Avoiders have minimal technology or tech-free lifestyle. They have no email accounts and no smartphones. The minimalists, they use technology as necessary. They will search Google to find information. It's all about the money.
Yes, it is.
They have a social media account they may check periodically. Then you have the reluctant adopters. They engage with technology but feel it's unintuitive. They have a cell phone but don't text. They check emails and may use online banking. Now you have the enthusiastic participants, so they're really hitting those people hard.
Right.
They're the largest group of digital natives. They have multiple social media accounts and stream videos. They're easier to reach via social media than cell phones.
Yep.
They will check social media for news. Then they have the enthusiastic adopters. They embrace technology and may work as high-tech execs or programmers. They check emails and social media accounts regularly. If they're a business owner, they will have a website that they maintain. 1 Corinthians 11, let's read verses 17 to 18.
Hallelujah.
1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 17. Now, in this that I declare unto you, I praise you not, that ye come together not for the better, but for the worse. Verse 18. For first of all, when ye come together in this congregation, I hear that there be divisions among you, and I partly believe it.
All right, so here is the brother addressing them, saying what Yahweh wanted him to say.
Right.
In this, I'm declaring unto you that I'm halal, I praise you not.
Okay.
That you come together not for better, but for worse. Why? Why when people get together at the temple, the place that they're supposed to be coming together, why are they coming together for the worse and not the better? They're doing all this comparing.
That's right.
Doing what the world that
That's
program
it.
their
Y'all
brain.
right. Tell like it
They
is.
come in seeing how different one person is from another. He said, but first of all, when you come together in the temple, Ashamar, or hear that there be divisions among you.
That's it.
And he said, I partly believe it. Why? If you listen to what the world telling you, you don't understand. They're trying to get your money. They're trying to get you to buy their product. Let's go to Psalms 127.
Hallelujah.
So I've got another article going to Psalms 127. This is from Kasasa.com. It's called Boomers, Generation X, Generation Y, and Generation Z Explained. And it was updated July 22nd, 2020. And it says that, why are the generations named after letters? It says the term Generation X illustrates the undetermined characteristics they would come to be known by, and depending on whom you ask, it was either sociologist, a novelist, or Billy Idol who submitted this vocabulary in this phrase in our vocabulary.
Okay.
Billy Idol, he's a rock star. He's a rock singer.
I know, right?
You see how, and people don't, and you got to search out that Black Lives Matter too, because there's something undercover in that. The words sound nice, but the people that formed it actually have a totally different agenda. So search that out. It says, the term millennial became widely credited to Neil Howe, along with William Strauss. Who's that? You saw, right? The pair coined the term in 1989, when the impending turn of the millennium began to feature heavily in the cultural consciousness. Splitting up Generation Y. Marketing the young generations as a single cohort will not be nearly as effective as segmenting your strategy and messaging. Why are generation cohort names important? Each generation label serves as a shorthand to reference nearly 20 years of attitude, motivation, and historical events. They're useful terms for marketers and have a tendency to trickle down into common usage. So they're doing this deliberately.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also a device of the devil for you to look at somebody younger, or you to look at them like you're not all one part of the same family, or one part, or they think so radically different than you. That's a lie. They don't. To help identify, okay, what makes each generation different? It says to help identify what generation you belong to. As an example, 96% of Americans have a smartphone. But Generation Z, the youngest generation, is the highest user. And then they go on and they divide it up and they talk about the baby boomer, talking about how many they are, what their media consumption is, what their finances, what they do, where they bank. All right, and so they're doing that for all of the people. And so they're looking at where they bank, and then they have the nicknames for them, and the banking habits, the millennials, banking habits. Millennials have less brand loyalty than previous generations. They prefer to shop product and features first and have little patience for inefficient or poor service. Because of this, millennials place their trust in brands with superior product history, such as Apple and Google. They seek digital tools to help manage their debt and see their banks as transactional as opposed to relational. All right, so, and then they say, oh, do they bank differently? Do they? What are they doing all up in your finances? Why? Because they want to sell you something. All right, Psalms 127. And then let me just read this last.
Praise the mighty Yah.
Let's read Psalms 127, and we'll read verse 3, and then I'll read this last article on the generations that the marketers have targeted. Psalms 127 and 3.
Psalms 127 and 3. Lo, children are an heritage of Yahweh, and the fruit of the womb is his reward.
So, man, children are an heritage of Yahweh. And the fruit of the womb is Yahweh's reward. Wow. But if we don't know how to deal with children, or we're thinking, well, you know, I read this article, so they think that way, or they think, and in our spiritually dead mind, we did think that. Well, you know, my child, she's a Gemini, so then she can be on one day and off the next, and took all that garbage and was applying it to the children. But it says, children are an heritage of Yahweh, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. So Yahweh gives human parents babies as blank slates. He tells parents what to write upon the babies as blank slates. But the devil has stepped in to try to tell us as parents what to write on the children. So this last article is by JasonDorsey.com. Top 10 Generation Y questions answered. And now they have these top 10 Generation Y millennial people. Not one black brother among them. All right? They got this guy, I guess he's from India. They got the white woman, they got the white man, they got the black woman leaning on the white man. And they got a white woman. So what is he? Is the black young man extinct in Generation Y? Or subconsciously they're saying, oh, he's not going to be working, he's not going to be
That's it. Y'all right.
Programming.
That's right.
How millennials, Generation Y, will change our world as consumers, citizens, and employees. So to not have even a young black brother up in here,
I know, right?
They're saying, oh, he won't be a part of this. He won't be a part of changing the world as a consumer, a citizen, and an employee. This man that wrote this article, Jason Dorsey, is a leading expert on millennials and the emerging generation after them known as Gen Z. Are millennials actually working? The headlines make it seem like millennials are all unemployed and living in their parents' basement. The truth is there are more millennials in the U.S. workforce than any other generation of employees. It says, but seriously, are millennials living with their parents? He said, today more 20-somethings live with their parents than in the last decade. But this is due to the fact that millennial parents still let them live with them. He said the irony is that it's the baby boomer parents who generally knew that once they left home, they couldn't come back. Yet now they invite, or at least allow, their millennial kids to continue living with them well into their 20s and even 30s. He says, can millennials become loyal, hardworking employees, managers, and leaders? 100% yes. He said, the key is not to coddle or cater to this generation. He said, the truth is that the group most offended by millennials acting entitled are other millennials who do not feel entitled. All right, let's read Psalm 127 verses 4 to 5. But so Yahweh gives parents blank slates. And if we're not hooked up to Yahweh, we can pick up all this garbage out here and be applying it to our children. And he's not telling us what to write on them, because if we're not hooked up with Yahweh. 127 verses 4 to 5, please.
Psalms 127 verse 4. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Verse 5. Happy is the man that has his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate.
All right, so children are like arrows in the hand of a mighty Adam, in the hand of a mighty married man, him and his wife. So are children of the youth. Happy is the man that has his quiver full of them. And the children shall not be ashamed. Why? Because the man's going to be directing them. And the husband and the wife going to be directing them. Like Yahweh tells them to. Be writing on that blank slate what Yahweh tells them to put on it. But if they're disconnected from Yahweh, they're writing all kind of garbage. Because it's being filtered into them. And they don't know how to guard their eye gate and ear gate to stop it from coming in. It says, happy is the man that has his quiver full of children. The children shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. So parents, go to 1 Corinthians 3. Parents socially and spiritually distant from Yahweh don't write upon babies what Yahweh tells them.
No, they do not.
Why? Because they're apart from Yahweh.
They don't know.
Socially and spiritually separated from Yahweh. So the devil divides these parents further by complicating the growth process. He tells them all this stuff about the stages that their children have to go through growing up. I got this article. We're going to 1 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter. And it is howtoadult.com. Human Growth Development Stages. Written by Teresa O'Hanlon, 18th of April 2017. Growth stages are the period of time between birth and adolescence, and is commonly divided into 4 growth stages. Here go the devil, trying to take away Yahshua's simplicity. He's trying to make it complicated, confuse it up. They go through infancy, childhood, juvenile, and adolescence. So infancy, they say, a baby is considered from birth through the 1st year of life. Childhood, they say after 1 year, a child's physical growth slows down considerably. So then that's what caused them to divide it into 1 year. The toddler years, so here they have another word in here, right?
I know, right?
Now you got a toddler. The toddler years are more mobile and exploratory. Now here they go again. Middle childhood, here's another term, occurs about age 6 years of age. So you see how, and even the school system, they divide them up into these different preschool, pre-K, and they divide them up into these groups. Juvenile, as children approach the ages of 9 and 10 years, they become more independent and might start noticing the physical changes of puberty. Adolescence, from ages 12 to 18 years, children experience distinct mental and physical changes. The beginning of a girl's menstrual cycle typically occurs 2 years after the onset of puberty. What's puberty? They keep coming out with all these new terms, right? They want you to look at your child like the child has two heads. They don't want you to hear what Yahweh's telling you to write on this child. It says, some agency, the NIH, reports that boys do not begin puberty until they're about 16 or 17 years old. Now they say you're an adult is noted when a person is considered chronologically, legally, and behaviorally ready to hold responsibilities such as operating a motor vehicle. That makes him an adult, right? Voting. Taking the vows of marriage. Some states you can get married at what, 15 or 16 years old. Entering into a contract, serving in the armed forces. And this made me think about my 19-year-old cousin that got killed in Vietnam when he was 19 because they let him join the army at 19. Adulthood now is often divided into 3 categories: young adult, middle age, and old age. So this is the devil wanting to complicate it. 1 Corinthians 3 and 3.
Hallelujah.
1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 3. For ye are not yet carnal, for whereas there is among you envy and strife and divisions, are ye not carnal and walk as men?
It says, for ye are yet carnal.
Yep.
You said you're not yet carnal. You are. You said you are yet. You're still carnal.
Right.
You're still fleshly minded. You're still comparing yourself among yourself. You're still looking horizontally. You're still listening to what the world's telling you.
Right.
How different you are and to magnify those differences.
Right.
You're still carnal minded. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are you not still carnal? Still baby minded? Thinking you're so different? And walking as men? And again, if you're not with Yahweh, that's all you can do.
That's it.
Go to Isaiah, the 11th chapter. So in opposition to the devil's confusion and complexity, the Shiach, categorizing children, has simplicity.
Yes.
He makes it simple. He wants you to get it.
Yes.
He don't want you to have to go to some college professor so he can break something down for you, and then he's breaking it down and it's a lie. Or you thinking it's so deep because some man came up with a theory about it.
Yeah.
So in opposition to the devil complicating things, the Shiach categorizing children is simple.
Yes.
Isaiah 11 and verse 8.
Hallelujah.
Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 8. And the sucking child shall play on the hole of the ass, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den.
Now, if you know anything about children at all, when you say sucking child, somebody's on the bottle or somebody's on the breast.
Right.
The weaned child, in other words, he's a little older because he's not still with the bottle.
That's
right. Yahweh makes it so easy. He wants you to get it. Okay, you have to be an idiot not to understand the sucking child and the weaned child.
Right.
But Isaiah 65.
Praise the mighty Revelation knowledge.
I ain't got to categorize children every couple of years. And
I know, right?
No, well, see, it's all about business because they want to. Okay, well, see, no, your child can't go to this school because they're, this is only for the 3 to 5 year olds. So then now they're 6, so they have to go to this school. But it's all about the money.
That's it. You just read.
Isaiah 65 and verse 20.
Hallelujah.
Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 20. There shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed.
All right, so now we see he calls it infinite days. And now they really This always confused me. When they say the woman's pregnant and they put it in weeks and months, and I mean, it just like first trimester, and I mean, they just divided it all up.
Yeah.
And then with the child, okay, they're however many months, what is it, 24 months, 18 months, and just the world, the devil just trying to make it so complicated.
Yeah.
But Yahweh said there should no more be in infinite days, and then he talks about a child, all right? So he also simplifies categorizing parents. Let's go to Genesis 19. He makes it simple when you're talking about parents, when you're talking about adults.
Yep.
You don't see nothing about no middle-aged stuff in here. Genesis 19 and verse 4.
Hallelujah.
Genesis chapter 19 and verse 4. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter.
Now, Yahweh just said, look, the adults, they were old and they were young.
Right.
That's it. Go to Exodus, the 10th chapter. He made it simple. Old and young.
Right. Hallelujah.
Exodus 10, verses 8 to 9.
Hallelujah.
Exodus chapter 10 and verse 8. And Moshe and Aharon were brought again unto Pharaoh. And he said unto them, Go, serve Yahweh your Elohim. But who are they that shall go? Verse 9. And Moshe said, We will go without young and without old, without sons and without daughters, without flocks and without herds will we go, for we must hold a feast unto Yahweh.
All right, so here's Pharaoh asking Moshe, okay, who's going?
Right.
The adults, the young adults and the old adults. And we taking our sons and daughters. There ain't nobody saying nothing about no toddler, juvenile. He said, hey, sons and daughters, the young and the old.
Right.
Go to 1 Kings, the 12th chapter. This is Yahweh talking now.
Right.
He's not trying to complicate it. 1 Kings 12.
Great. Hallelujah.
1 Kings 12, and let's read verses 6 to 8, please.
Hallelujah.
First Kings 12, verse 6. And King Rehoboam consulted with the old men that stood before Shelomah his father, while he yet lived, and said, How do ye advise that I may answer this people?
All right, so here is Melech Rehoboam, and he's consulting with the old Adam, the old men
All right.
that stood before, it says, Shelomah his father,
Yep.
while he yet lived in Amar. How do you advise that I may answer this people? So he's talking to the old men.
Right.
So he didn't cut it off. He didn't say 65. He just said the old men.
Right.
All right, 7 and 8.
Verse 7. And they spake unto him, saying, If thou wilt be a servant unto this people this day, and will serve them, and answer them, and speak good words to them, then they will be thy servants forever. Verse 8. But he forsook the counsel of the old men, which they had given him, and consulted with the young men that were grown up with him, and which before him.
All right, so he said he ignored the counsel. Yahweh of the old men.
Right.
They gave him, he consulted with the young men. So we just see men, young and old.
That's it.
All right, go to Proverbs 22. So Yahweh tells parents spiritual connectedness is what he expects to happen between them and their children.
That's it.
Parents socially and spiritually connected to him right upon children what he says.
Yes.
Proverbs 22 and 6.
Preach. Wait.
They get them as blank slates. They
Right.
always said, look, this, I'm going to tell you what to write on. I'm going to tell you how to treat them.
Right.
Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
All right, so it says, train up a zakah, or child, in the way he should go. What's the way he should go? Serving Yahweh, giving his life to Yahweh, following Yahweh. It said when he's old, he won't depart from it. It didn't say nothing about in between being young and old.
Yeah, right.
So when you brought your children up and trained them and wrote on them like you were supposed to write from 0 to 20, they'll be all right.
Yeah, that's right.
They may go way over to Timbuktu, but they'll come back.
That's what
As
it
Yahweh
is.
said, that's the process.
Yep.
Hey, they got the core foundation. It says when he's old or she's old, they won't depart. They'll come back to Yahweh.
That's it.
The two English words, train up, are one Hebrew primitive root word, kanak. That's C-H-A-N-A-K, found at Strong's Blue Letter Bible number 2596. Justinian's Hebrew Chaldee Lexicon defines train up as to make narrow, to be narrow, to put something in the mouth, to give to be tasted. It's talking about Yahweh's word.
Right,
To
right.
instruct, to initiate, to dedicate, to commence to use, to perceive, to know by the sense as altogether incorrect. So that training up a child is letting them know there's a right way and there's a wrong way. Yahweh's way is the right way and exactly what that is. This word is used in 3 other scriptures in the Old Testament as dedicate. Let's go to Deuteronomy 20 and 5. So training up a child is dedicating them to Yahweh.
Yes, it is.
The main way you dedicate them to Yahweh is they see you serving Yahweh.
That's it.
Deuteronomy 20. I remember my uncle, and he used to say, don't smoke cigarettes, don't smoke, don't smoke, don't smoke. And every time he came in the house, he had a cigarette. He wouldn't really smoke it. He had it in the corner of his mouth. You know how some people have it, and then it burns, and then the ashes just fall all over the place. And when I was 16, it was me and my older brother. We were the only ones in the house. I don't know where I got that cigarette from. But him just telling me don't smoke.
Right.
And then, so I lit it up, and then he walked right in the front door when I was smoking. But he was a hypocrite.
Right.
All right, Deuteronomy 20 and verse 5.
Hallelujah.
Deuteronomy 20 and verse 5. And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, what man is there that hath built a new house, and hath not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man dedicate it.
So this is the same word, Hebrew word for train up. It says, what man is there that's built a new bayit, a house, and he hadn't dedicated it? Let him go and return to his bayit, lest he die, moved in the battle, and another man dedicated it. He's talking about training up your children. Go to 1 Kings, the 8th chapter. The same identical Hebrew word, dedicated to Yahweh. 1 Kings 8. I remember even when I was growing up, and my parents raised my family to be in the Sunday church. They made us go to church every week. They made us. Now, they might not have went, but they made sure we went. And we didn't stop going until we left the house at 18 to go away to school. But they made us go. And there wasn't no, okay, I'm 12, 13, so I don't feel like, you gonna get out of there, somebody gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
And it looks a lot like you.
Amen.
1 Kings 8, verse 63.
Hallelujah.
1 Kings chapter 8 and 63. And Shelomah offered a sacrifice of peace offering, which he offered unto Yahweh, 22,000 oxen, and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the children of Israel dedicated the house of Yahweh.
All right, that's the same Hebrew word. That's how we parents dedicate their children to Yahweh. Go to Nehemiah, the 5th chapter. So parents socially and spiritually distant from Yahweh are in bondage.
Yeah.
And they raise children in generational bondage.
Yeah.
We just finished reading about these generations. Yeah. They got them in generational bondage.
Yeah.
Nehemiah and Nehemiah 5. And they do not dedicate children to Yahweh. Nehemiah 5 and verse 5.
Hallelujah.
Nehemiah 5 and verse 5. Yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brethren, our children as their children. And lo, we bring into bondage our sons and our daughters to be servants, and some of our daughters are brought unto bondage already. Neither is it in our power to redeem them, for other men have our lands and vineyards.
Right? So he's saying, yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our band is their band, and we bring into bondage our bond and our bath to be heavy. And some of our bath are brought into bondage already. So whoever separated socially and spiritually distant from Yahweh, they have their children in bondage.
Yeah.
Go to Galatians, the 4th chapter. So it's Yahweh then who prompts their children to start questioning these parents' beliefs.
Okay.
And all of us, if we weren't raised in the temple, started questioning. I was raised as a Methodist. What do you call it? African Methodist, AME something. African Methodist Episcopal. But Yahweh had me start questioning that. My parents weren't bad people, but because they didn't dedicate me to Yahweh in that way, they dedicated me to where I got to where, hey, I'm supposed to be there every week. I'm supposed to do this.
Right.
Then, as far as when I got there, what the people were doing, and I love reading the Bible, but there's something was just a little off to where it was Yahweh putting it in me.
Yes.
He put it in you too.
Yes.
To start questioning their beliefs. And so he had me start looking. Galatians 4 and verse 3.
Hallelujah.
Galatians chapter 4 and verse 3. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world.
Yes, we were.
Yes.
Because we had parents that were
Because for the
separated.
supreme Elohim, Yahweh, YHWH, Yahshua was knowledge. If you take a Benjamin, you won't have to go to college. It's that indescribable feeling, that indescribable healing that brings me nothing but chilling. It's the way I get it. Now God has blessed me with a gift of articulate and eloquence. A boy who grew up shy, introverted, couldn't talk to people at all. Now that he speaks, he drops the destiny ball. My goal is to spread his message through all sorts of tools possible, through the camera, through the YouTube, to skirt his good, to stop the madness and bring our community back to gladness. And we can do that through the everlasting source. At the last resort, we're having to go to sue and go to court.